Let's give a big round for Kim, who put this whole thing together. Actually, Rick, who was here earlier, we were at a bar one night talking about what this industry really needed. And MindGrub, we make and market software for clients, but I gave a story where I talked about working at the Fort back in the day and then going into the private sector because I thought the user experience was just abysmal. Like, in trying to get things on the baseline, I was like, well, you can have the technology from 10 years ago, and everybody still was, jamming on green prompt-based screens, thinking that was like the best, UI they've ever seen before. And Rick actually came to Kim and I and said, like, you guys should showcase good user experience because the industry could really use that. And it's been great. Kim started it last year, the Cyber U Excellence Awards. They run between RSA and Black Hat. But we really appreciate everybody that's participated in that. We'd really like to grow the movement around good UX. And then the other major theme tonight, which we're gonna, it's gonna be hard not to avoid, is AI. Because AI now in itself is a user experience, and how companies are gonna bake AI into their software, into their dashboards, into personalization. So really excited to get the conversation started tonight. I'm gonna turn it over to my co-moderator, the co-founder of Tenable, this great space that we're in today, and now the president, CEO, chairman, co-CEOs of Gula Tech Ventures, a VC business. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you're using user experience for AI, and then we'll turn it over a challenge question to our panel and get you to give us your backgrounds.
Awesome. Hey, look, I know Kim thanked Tenable. It really means a lot for everybody coming out. It really means a lot to me and Cindy for everybody coming out tonight here at Tenable. This is the first sort of non-Tenable event we did at the Tenable building. So very excited to be here. Look, I mean, everybody knows AI. I put a tagline in the videos I do on YouTube: you can't have good AI without good cyber. Well, you can't have good cyber without user interfaces, right? And I think we've all been there, right? Whether it's a crazy API, a GUI that's slow, or something like that. So when MindGrub asked for me to get involved, hey, can I be a judge for this program? I was like, yeah, I think it's really important to have developers think about the user experience, the outcome of what they're doing. So I'm going to be putting all you on the spot tonight for what you buy and what you build, and hope to get to your questions here in the audience as well.
All right, great. Well, let's get into it. So, two things to begin with, and we'll just go down the row here. Starting with Arsha, I'm here with Pixie. Reintroduce yourselves. What do you do for the company? What does your company do? Maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, not too long. And then specifically, what does user experience mean to you and your business as well?
Please. Yeah. So my name is Arshan Dabir-Siagi, and the first 10 years of my career, I was actually working right down the street off Broken Land Parkway doing code reviews and penetration testing in AppSec space. And I wasn't happy with the automation I had in my hands there for my customers, and so I started a company called Contrast Security. And Contrast did really well, eventually became a unicorn around 2021. And then I got obsessed with the idea of fixing and triaging all the vulnerabilities that come out of all the tools that we have. We have like so many tools that produce so much noise and signal, and companies need a lot of help in figuring out which is which. And our obsession is to fix the things that are real and help you close as nonsense the things that are nonsense. And for me, UX was, we hired 50 engineers at my first company. And then we hired a UX person. And I swore that would not happen. I said, oh, it's going to be my second hire at the next place. And it was hire number 5 at Pixie. So, having it is a competitive advantage. Having it is it makes your decisions easier. It makes your decisions faster. It gives you frameworks for thinking about things. And so I'm a big believer in it. And yeah. That's it.
Awesome.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Now, Alex, how is Under Armour focused on user experience? I mean,
so Alex Tumadil, I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at Under Armour. So I am obviously a customer for the products that's being built. So, my team's responsibility is to look at signals and react and respond, etc. Right. What I really look for in a product is how can I reduce the amount of time it takes for my team to configure, set up, and then care and feed, and reduce all of that down to the minimum, and then take advantage of what that solution does. And I don't need to be a PhD to run the solution just in case I decided to kind of part ways with you. I shouldn't have to now fire 5 people that I hired, right? So I always look for my engineers to be, hey, I can use the product, the output of the product. I don't need to be a PhD in understanding what that product setup and engineering needs to be. So that's the way I kind of look at products.
Yeah, so Mike Baker with DXC Technology and global CISO there. So I've been there for 3.5 years. Before that, I worked in as CISO for U.S. defense contractors, and before that, I was with the EY doing consulting and things like that. And it's an interesting story. I don't come from a development background, so I didn't really think about user experience that much as a consumer until Kim, you reached out and you said you want to take part in these awards, and the UX Excellence Awards, and I was like, so what the heck is that? Yeah, I said I haven't really thought about it that much as a consumer, and then when you brought it up, I really started to think and go back in me as a buyer and say, when did this really cross paths? And I just remember different experiences with different products that generated massive amounts of frustration and annoyance. And that's all I remember. And it was an emotional reaction, which I thought was really cool. And I go, that's really neat that you're going to spotlight this in a product, because it's something that I just traditionally haven't thought about. I've just complained about it. And I haven't really, had any solutions or shine a spotlight on people who do it well. So that's what it means to me. You mentioned time saved. I have products in my head right now that I'm going through where it's that extra click or that extra confirmation screen, or maybe it's a SaaS product that you manage people with that it just doesn't make any sense when you go through the workflows. Mm-hmm. And I think about the time wasted, not just for cyber teams, but for businesses in general, where the UX isn't optimized. And then I started thinking about a really amazing product that I've started to use in the last year. And I remember what attracted me on the floor of Gartner when I looked at that product and I saw the beautiful user experience, the clean lines, the ability, no wasted clicks, information right there, right at your fingertips. And that's when it really dawned on me that this is a very important award that you started here. So again, glad to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming. I'll turn this back to Ron for a sec too, because I think the user experience is going to change so drastically. Like you talk about clean lines, like, back in the day with user experience, the concept was don't make me think, like make it really easy. But I started as a Flash developer, and I was really excited. From HTML, you had to click the page and refresh the page to do anything. I'm like, that's horrible. With Flash, it was a plugin, which everybody thought from a, accessibility perspective wasn't great, but the experience you could have. And now when you talk about chat and you talk about video, do you want to tell us what you're up to with like the video interface these days? Because that's certainly kind of a big change.
It's crazy. So one of the things I get the privilege of doing is taking the free time between board meetings and guiding startup founders and whatnot, and make AI-based videos. So I do a lot with this company called Replicant, which is more of an avatar type of thing, all AI-driven. And I do a whole lot with all of the new videos that come out. Grok just dropped a new video model. Kling 3.0 just kind of came out, which is good. And I'm right kind of at the forefront of using this. And it kind of keeps me sharp when it comes to AI, because I want to see that same kind of progress in our industry. And I'm a little disappointed that it hasn't happened yet. So I think we're going to get there, though.
Yeah. So on that note, when you think of your interfaces, and if you think about like, Pixie product company, right, and they sell their product to consumers, right? Under Armour, the interfaces, you build a ton of internal tools and client-facing, consumer-facing tools as well. And then Mike, you guys as a service company build tons of interfaces. So right now, all those interfaces look like, call it dashboards, right? A lot of form-based solutions, right? And they got to be clean. They have to be, don't make me think, they have to be as few clicks as possible. But where do you see that interface going next? Are you incorporating chat into it? Are you personalizing? Are you adding like cinematography? Like what's next as you think about your products? That's going to kind of, be along that continuum of where interface design is going next.
I can get started. I mean, this is something that I've been kind of thinking about. You can just think about our .com site, right? You're consumer facing, and you can't just say, look, you're only going to have retail customers coming in, right? I mean, there's customers from all over the world that is going to come in, and they have different experiences. So you have to kind of look at what the world is doing, right? Some of us are ahead of the times, right? They do some whiz bang stuff, and you really want to be forefront with it. Like, and I'll go back to the Amazon times, right, where Amazon came out with the next day delivery, right? Everybody started chasing that, right? Because that's what the consumer started expecting from you. It doesn't matter who you are. The expectation is I order something today, it's going to show up in my doorstep tomorrow. So we all should kind of deliver that expectation, right? So it's the same thing that is going to happen with the UX interface as well, right? There are going to be things that are going to catch on, and people are going to really love it. And when they come to your website and they're like, wow, this really doesn't have that flair, right? So you really need to be up and about with what the world is doing and kind of trying to adjust and adapt.
You're
to it.
absolutely right. Which is why I'm totally confused now that engineers seem to be ruling the world, because when I look at like ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity, it is like Slack, it is Claude Code, it is the old Eclipse, it's the left-hand nav, and nowadays it's like, well, these are my files, these are my methods, these are my GBTs, like all in just one single stacked left-hand menu, and then the text wall, right? Like that is a horrible user interface, but it is starting to win out, and it blows my mind.
So when I
Yeah.
when I think about user interface in my, like, again, I don't create products personally, but what I want to do is create a seamless seamless secure user experience for my employees. We have 130,000 employees globally across DXC, and I want to make security as seamless and almost as invisible as possible. And we've had like an inexorable march towards that space, right? You don't enter passwords anymore. You use your face. You do this. But I view a future in the world leveraging AI where some of the manual steps that are truly annoying for the everyday employee can then be eliminated. I think of the most pointless thing in the world, which is user access reviews that you do, that you're spammed with every single quarter or every month, and you generally just click through it. Do we need that in the age of AI, when we can actually use AI to determine what that entitlement should be, what they're using, and how it should be reviewed, rather than rely on a human? It's a really annoying experience to do that. So for me, it's all about picking products that are transparent to that end user, provide that secure experience. It's almost that's the panacea that I'm searching for.
And it's interesting to be on the product builder side. I think there's like, one of my journeys here has been when I pitch to folks like you, where I want to show you a first time experience that is very sizzly. You see all the value, but really what it takes to scale is sometimes something that looks very different. We optimized in my last company, we optimized for first time use so much. But then some of those decisions, because we didn't have a UX framework, we didn't work backwards from sort of principles on that. We ended up building, something we had to take a lot of steps back, and it was a harder journey. But having different experiences for first time use, for what it looks like at scale, and then importantly, I don't know if you're going to be doing those user reviews next year, right? I mean, agents are going to be doing that. Yeah, promise.
We're in the process of making that.
Yeah, exactly.
Moot.
And so, is it about UX or is it about AX? Is it about what is the agent experience? And is that fundamentally different? I don't think we know yet. There's a great story about if you ever play guitar, there's tabs, which are like sheet music. And OpenAI was hallucinating a feature in a guitar tab app. And so they were kicking users to the guitar app, and that team figured out, let's just make that feature. Because that's what the agents think exists. And so it's interesting to have another angle that it's like, okay, there's first time use, and there's what does it look like at scale, and then how are agents going to use it, I think is another fundamentally maybe different approach. We'll find out.
Making it easy is the pathway to have a secure enterprise, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
Vulnerability management, something we've been doing for a long time, right? Is ripe for disruption, because how annoying is it that you create a scan and then you rely on another party to go patch it and do all that? That is so legacy. We have the ability to auto fix, to auto remediate, to put a human in the loop to validate that it was done correctly. That to me is the future. You make it easier, not just for the security teams, you make it easier for the users, make it easy for the technical and IT teams. And that's the way I think, leading forward, we're going to make the secure enterprise.
It's a little bit counterintuitive if we were to say, look, I'm building an app, and this app needs to reflect what I would like to do, right? As an organization who's building it, right? But it really isn't about you; it's about the user that is going to use it, right? So the topic is, I want to go sit down with them and say, well, how do you work, right? What makes it easier and efficient for you to work? And let me build that app for you versus, hey, I like this. I like all these whiz bang colors and that whatnot, right? But the idea really is, look, things are going to change. And at the end of the day, how fast you go from boom to, resolve is the point, right? The amount of time that it takes for you to quickly detect, quickly respond from a security app standpoint, right? You don't need to be clicking through 85 different pages to finally get to that answer. I can easily see a time when all you have is an input interface and you type in the question, and essentially it will just go through all the different tools that you have and provide you with, here's the answer that you were looking for, and this is how I got to the answer, right? And that makes life a lot easier for the analyst.
You're actually like that. We'd have to take that soundbite. Minecraft has something called Decision Engine. That's exactly that single interface, although frankly it's chat, SMS, and phone. But through those interfaces, and then it is the decision of the back-end systems. Like that's everything these days is it's going to be those interfaces, but then also the visual. Like I was thinking in my head, like, the Oakley glasses now, they have like a CISO plugin, and you can be at dinner and then you just see like threats in the corner of your glasses, right? Isn't that where it's going?
I'm out on that one.
So let me ask you this. So this is for you too, but more on the enterprise side. So you buy a cyber product, you deploy it, and if you've selected it, the GUI's probably tolerable. But at some point, if we're going to enable this like AI, everything working together, this is the user UX awards, not the API awards. But at some point, the API becomes really important, right? So when you think about your favorite vendors, is it API or is it user interface?
Or MCP.
Yeah. So in my mind, I would say, I mean, it's not. I mean, AI's got to be part of it, right? But the user experience, I'm thinking democratizing my analyst pool, right? I may have a 5-year experience guy, I may have a 10-year experience guy, but I may also have a newbie that is just joining the team. At the end of the day, the expectation that I have is they all perform the same amount of work, right? Or same type of work. So essentially what I'm trying to get this tool to do, I shouldn't be able to say, look, you can't work on this tool because it's way past your grade, right? The guy who is here for 5 years, he can work on this tool, right? And then I had to get something else for the 10-year guy, right? So at the end of the day, they should all be able to use this tool. And how do you validate the answers at the end of it? The guy who has been there just showed up, probably doesn't know if that answer is right or not. So he probably needed a little bit of hand holding. The guy who was there 5 years, you probably just, when you spit out the answer, he's like, yep, I think I know that answer because here's all the information, right? So trying to democratize that answer.
But it's funny when you say democratize, I'm imagining, I'm working in the SOC at Under Armour and I'm struggling with a question and the AI goes, do you want to see how Nike did this?
Oh, no, that's not what I meant.
I know, but that's kind of where I was going, right? So yeah.
No, but it's not between us or another competitor or somebody else. It's more along the lines of, I'm a more junior person. Do you want to know how a more senior person would do this or solve this for you, right? Because there may be shortcuts that you can take. But at the end of the day, like I'm still old school. I still remember back in the day we used to take PCAPs and DNS and trying to piece it all together. By the time you get to it, I mean, the end of the day is there and you're probably going through 2 incidents, right? That day is over, right? I mean, all of that stuff is available to you as a product, right? And you should churn through all of that stuff. And all I need is a prompt that gives me the answers. I don't need to be PCAPing it, or I don't need to be looking at DNS entries.
So when I hear prompt, I hear API.
Yes.
Mike, what are your
I'm
thoughts?
just going to give you a direct answer. So I'm not old school or any of that. And generally, I don't choose products. My team does. And why does my team choose products? Is it easy to use? Does it make their life easier? Is it a pleasurable experience? And again, that is that API, is it this, is it that, is it an MCP? It doesn't matter. But generally speaking, when they come to me and they provide a vote, they don't want their life to get harder. And if you can create a product that's easier to use, makes their life easier, allows them to do their job in a more frictionless fashion, you've won the day.
I
I'm
think,
curi-
yeah, I was gonna say, to the bigger the company, the more you have to be flexible. You have to provide those APIs and MCP and that kind of stuff to get them in. You usually have to provide something a little bit more, a great GUI. And so I think you think of where we are on the spectrum. With AI, we've been now able to go up the value chain a little bit and go towards remediation and triage and that stuff. If we are today, everything's very human in the loop. Like, everything we do is we propose a fix or we say this is a false positive or whatever. You still have to say, your team still has to agree. But in the future, you can imagine we get to a point where we're auditors and we're not, it's not maker checker. And so in that case, you need both, because you need the APIs to make everything work. And then you need a great GUI to go in, get the observability. Why did you make this decision? And, really get a deeper, more pleasurable human experience, even if it's
Yes.
API is like how everything sort of gets done at scale.
And most importantly, you need to listen to the customer, be responsive to the customer, and allow them to feel heard. And again, we get tripped up on all the techie and the APIs and the this and the that and whatever. User experience always comes down to the fact you allow that person to feel heard in your responsiveness, in how you engage with them, and how it's reflected in the product.
Well, and in that point, that's why AI is so fascinating. Like, just quick show of hands, who has a relationship with a chatbot? Does anybody have a relationship? I'm the only one.
I think you need to clarify what
Yeah,
that
what
means
does that
before people
mean?
raise their hands.
I
We've all
mean,
seen her.
It's
and-
part of my team now. Like, it knows me. It knows, like, so I'm still working on Gemini, right? But I have ChatGPT that's been with me for now, we're going on almost 3 years, right?
Wow.
And
Did you get anything for the anniversary?
Sounds serious.
Now, I think my wife maybe actually, who's in the audience, has like a little bit more maybe emotional relationship with her chat. Mine's all business, but it knows everything. That interface, though, of really being able to just have that chat, like you saw the movie Her, right? Which is, verbal, spoken communication. I guess in cyber, I keep cycling on how much of it can be, and you're absolutely right. Human in the loop. The AI is doing the analysis. It has threat. It comes back to you to validate, right? Whether you're looking at logs or anything, and you're having that conversation. But at some point, you're like, I need to see it. So then visuals spawn, right? And you see, like in chat now, like it'll throw up a calculator, it'll throw up graphics and stuff. It's pretty kind of weak, but it's within that stream. I'm thinking in cyber, how does the dashboard include chat, but then it spawns the widgets, right? And then the widgets are also personalized when you come in based on the last setup. Like there seems to be some evolution of the dashboard meets the chat. What are your guys' thoughts in terms of like where is that user experience going?
And it really depends on what you're doing, right? For example, we cannot be one size fits all, right? So it has to be. Let's just look at a threat.
Personalization.
Yeah, personalization for that. Let's say the function that you're doing. Let's think of it as a SOC, right? SOC. If you're looking at a SOC analyst, what do they really care about, right? You got a bunch of alerts that shows up, and they need to figure out if that alert means anything. Do I need to call the customer up, or do I need to wake them up, et cetera, right? What does that workflow looks like, right? What is a normal flow that an analyst will go through? Just do that. You don't need to make a solution that fits everybody's needs, right? Don't make a product for everyone. Make it for that analyst, right? Because that's what 90% of the work that he's going to be doing day to day is. When he has a little time, a break, right? He may actually click around for other things, but 90% of the work that he's doing is, I got an alert, I need to figure out if that is a valid alert. Let's go through that, right?
That's where it's going. Then the same way that like chat in a scroll will create content, the interface will just evolve, right? Almost like as you're like, I need this, and it'll just create that for you on the fly.
I just want to build on the AI SOC example. I was caught off guard by your relationship talk with AI. So I was like,
I could tell I changed topics.
train of thought. SOC's a great example. Spent the last 6 months revolutionizing my SOC, fully agentic tier 1. And when you think about the user experience that now the analysts have, right, whether you're a higher tier or you're a responder or whatever, they go in, it says malicious, benign, don't know. And right up front says, this is why I made this determination. This is what you need to do. Like, it's a completely different job, a completely different experience for that human that's in that job role. And it's something that we've seen a lot. Like, there was human friction involved in that transformation. There was technology resistance. There was a whole bunch of stuff. But in the end, when they saw the power of it and they saw how it changed the way they use their tools every day, it was amazing to see over the course of that time.
I like how you two are talking more along the lines of their existing information model, the existing workflows, the existing process is a comforting thing. When I heard your remarks, I was thinking about like, okay, what if you could spawn a custom UI for every incident? Like if that future can occur, it's almost unsettling as a person because you want some determinism in how we're going to handle this. And yeah, so maybe there's a limit on how dynamic that UI should be. It's interesting to me that Claude Code has really taken over the developer experience because it's a freaking command line tool. It couldn't be more old school in that way, but that's where we went because I think that's what feels most natural for us. And so yeah, I don't know, maybe there's a lesson there and like can't get too crazy with it.
So I think one of the lessons is that think about the journey of a cyber person, right? You go to school, what do you learn? You learn the basics, maybe some Snort, some Nmap, some Nessus and whatnot. You certainly don't learn, Tenable or CrowdStrike, maybe if you're lucky, right? But then if I'm lucky enough to get a job at one of your enterprises, I might not even touch the vendor, right? Because you're giving me an abstracted alert that says, by the way, this bad thing happened. It might have been Proofpoint, it might have been CrowdStrike, it might have been whatever. So I think what's really interesting is in what happens to our concept of cybersecurity if you've abstracted it out to make it easy to do, which is a good thing.
And what happens to the concept of a
You turn it over to questions. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay, right when I was talking. I see how it is.
But you know what? That means you got to walk around with one of these mics then, Kim.
We can handle that. We can handle that.
Some engagement here. Okay, you
Thank
guys
you
are the
for keeping
smartest.
us-
Michael Baker, you're
Thank you for
one of the
keeping us on
smartest.
track.
I'm just saying, I'm reading the room,
Okay.
and I'm trying to like make sure we're all because you guys could go. Honestly, I don't think you've asked one question that I.
Yeah, we don't need you guys here. I mean, we love talking about this stuff.
Glad
They're
we-
just
glad
in
we
their own
stopped
little
us.
world. I'm like, hello. What about the people here? Okay,
All right,
There
raise
is
your
some-
hand because there's clearly a huge
No.
there you go.
but
You got one
it's
right there.
you, and you are actually the reason why I stopped them. Okay, because you came for a specific reason, and we're gonna make sure they have that opportunity. If that's okay. I'm getting good
Love it.
exercise today. Okay.
Yeah, hello. Great conversation, by the way. So, my question or kind of observation is that you are discussing about the dashboards, right? So, where the dashboards are going. So, actually, Claude actually do have the dynamic dashboard thing. So, I was experimenting with Ghidra, which is a reverse engineering tool. So, I built a custom MCP server. So, in that sense, I did not find the need to use the GUI of Ghidra, and I directly handle everything from the Claude. So do you think the UI or UX is going to more of a chat interface where you can just chat with the thing and it will... So as you might know that Claude actually generates graphs and graphics for you. So it actually generated overview of my program and everything. So I got the dashboard on the fly. So do you think this is where the UX is going regarding cyber or generally?
That's I personally think, and I think I mentioned this here,
Yeah.
right? I personally think that's where it needs to go, right? Because if you were thinking about how you're addressing a problem, right?
Yeah.
You have the question in your head,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to find answers using the 5-10 different tools that you have, right? What if you could just take that question and pop it into a prompt
Yeah.
and let the tool do the work for you,
Fully agreed, except there has to be like if it gives you a graph in the scrollable wall, you have to be able to drag it and plug it on a sticky wall. That's my only request as everybody progresses this whole because it's going more green screen. And as a designer, I'm like, I don't want to have to keep scrolling to go find previous conversations. I need to be able to stick them, drag and drop. It needs drag and drop.
So a little banter, because I can't help myself, if that chat has clearance.
Hey, green is cool. Fallout's in, right? So I call this the platformatization of cyber, right? So cyber's finally getting to the maturity that a business can use it the same way they use their ERP, their CRM, their HR systems, and so on.
Yeah, so we are actually trying to do the same thing with MCP servers. So basically, MCP basically solve this UX problem, I believe, because if you have MCP client, which can be anything, or you can even build your own custom MCP client. So if organizations or the tools are exposing their functionalities through MCP servers, I believe it kind of gets into the same UX question that where does the user experience goes in this direction.
I feel like we're being judged, right? I mean, just
100%.
I think it becomes permissions at that point.
Yeah, but it also helps you with not having to move the data around, right? You have 10 different tools that you're running, trying to make sure that, and they all have their own repos. Instead of trying to bring it into a central location like a SIM, let it run out of those individual repos, right? So you don't have to worry about moving data around, right? And incur all that cost.
And I'm a little bit of an outside observer, but I think we're already there. Every single product demo I have, like, look at this cool chatbot. You don't even need to do anything else.
Yeah.
And they just do it. So like we're there now, right? Whether it's Charlotte or this or that or whatever name you want. Again, as a little bit less of a technical resource up here, as a buyer, for me, that's pretty standard table stakes now.
I'm seeing whole companies who are using Claude Code as their company dashboard, and they're putting all sorts of different functionality. But that's it. There's startups and they're doing it. So it is kind of fascinating. That's why I'm like, we need some drag and drop. We need to improve this interface. But it seems that things are going in that direction.
Thank you.
I do have another question, and when I say I do, it's actually directed at you, Evan. So Evan is with SVC. SCV. They're a VC group out of Northern Virginia. When I say Northern Virginia, I mean DC. The DMV. I'm curious if I think some good advice, because we do have VCs in the room, would be like, what advice would you give startups or the VCs to give to their startup portfolio companies? Right.
To accomplish what? Good UX or?
Like any advice that I give in front of you.
Yeah, I think that's it's funny. I was going to ask something very similar, but I was, funnily enough, partial sidetrack. I was speaking with our founder the other day, and he's been in cyber almost 30 years now, and he was saying that curiosity continues growth. It's important to always stay curious. So kind of in that spirit, and also in the spirit, Alex, to our conversation of sports and all things of such, right? Like, who is a product that you guys are currently seeing that's really going to have that rookie of the year type year, and like what is differentiating them at this time? Because Alex, when we were just speaking, and I promise I'm not trying to farm social clips for any product, but people are consistently thinking of problems that you've never thought of, right? So who are some of these teams or these products that are really going to have that breakout year, or that are solving things that people have never even really thought of, and they're maybe solving a 5-year down the road problem before everyone gets on top of it?
In cyber specifically?
Yeah, in cyber.
I think we are all trying to figure that answer, right? And I think when we chatted, I think I was kind of explaining the same thing. I take these opportunities, meetings like this, to understand what are the problems I should be looking at, because somebody would have come up with a solution, an MVP product. It's already 6 months, 9 months into the game. And that tells me that I'm 9 months behind the problem statement, right? So this is one of those areas. And obviously, we're all chasing the big AI demon from the cybersecurity standpoint, right? It is happening. Businesses are running. everybody at every turn is trying to pitch an AI solution, and here is the cyber teams and all of these organizations trying to figure out, well, where's the data coming from? Where are the data going? What are all the interfaces? Do you have an MCP involved in this, right? What are the agents doing? What permissions? I mean, you got all these questions, but at the same time, things are changing as well for the organization because there's no, I mean, still very nascent, right? So the answer to your question with regards to like what is the area that we should be focusing on? Look at what the businesses are doing, right? Businesses are all trying to take advantage of the AI capabilities and capacities that are coming out. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, automation, workflow automation, AI, speed
Yeah.
at speed at defense, speed at assessment, speed at attack in some cases, right? Like
I have to get in on this one.
So I just want to
Sorry.
jump in just in the back because we've been talking red team offense. I think my answer is to your point is the attack. You follow the attack
You
path.
took my answer, which is amazing. I love
Okay,
it. But
okay.
I'm going to
Well,
answer I'm going to answer your question very
So
directly.
I'm sitting with a few attackers here, so
I-
I'm feeling the vibe.
So you mentioned products, trends, like real AI. I look at where do I have them? Look, everyone says we have a talent shortage, but then they don't hire anyone. So however that works, right? But I look at where is the lowest value per man hour that I see in my team. That's number one. I see it, as I mentioned before, in the SOC, in the tier 1 analyst SOC. So agentic SOC, I think, is going to be huge. I think it already is huge. I mentioned vulnerability management. The lower level analysts doing vulnerability management day in and day out, kicking off scans, doing all that stuff. So how are we going to revolutionize vuln management? And to your point, I didn't get your name.
Sally.
To Sally's amazing point, right? Adversarial AI testing at scale, continuously, 24 hours a day, to me is going to be amazing. Those are like my 3 things I'm really leaning into on the how to use AI to better protect your organization front. So much so that with VCs like you, I'm on the phone with them every day saying, who are the players, right? Is it Cogent and Vuln, right? Is it 7AI in SOC? Is it Novi in adversarial? Which one of those do I need to get on the train with? Because to your point, if I wait too long, it's over. I'm not going to wait for CrowdStrike to do it in a year or 2. I love CrowdStrike. I love the bigger companies, but I think we're going to be behind if we don't lean in now. And I think what's your name again, partner? Your name. What you said is on the defense of AI front, right? Simplifying the defense of agentic AI as it relates to human to LLM, app to LLM, agent to LLM, MCP to data. Like, I don't know that schema right now. And I think the market is incredibly ripe for someone to come in, whether it's Pangea and CrowdStrike or Hidden Layer or name a whole bunch of companies. But like to make it simple for me so I can go to my CIO and say, hey, roll out agents here, just go to this one agentic proxy and we can roll in these controls. And these are the 3 or 4 control points with a single platform or 1 or 2 platforms to create that story so the business can execute with agility on their AI roadmap using all the great MCP stuff you're doing. That to me, those are like the 4 big things.
I
So
would
couple things on that because I spent a lot of time doing the investing thing and whatnot. There's 2 trends I think we haven't talked about yet. So one, every customer that you might be talking to as a startup is a potential competitor. I mean, every customer is a software shop. I mean, everybody here is coders, right? And if you can code a great startup solution with 2 or 3 people or partnering with somebody like MindGrub, so can you guys. And so it's this weird thing of that. And the second thing is that a lot of times our industry is made up by hundreds, if not thousands of startups every year that get acquired that you never hear about. But the reason they were acquired is because it was cheaper for somebody like a Cisco or Palo to buy them than build it internally. I'm very concerned that that's going to flip over. And because it's just going to be so much easier for them to build these things too. So that makes this future really, really unpredictable.
I think
Or it's easier for us just to do it ourselves.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
Exactly.
you look at where SaaS is going, where all these capabilities are going. I mean, there's going to be a democratization of it soon.
I think it'll create some downward pressure on pricing, but if the modern CISO has to do so many things, do you want to manage the software? It's so much easier to create greenfield stuff with this technology than it is to maintain it with the same technology. And if we bake in a couple breakthroughs, maybe that gets easier. But I think we're we're not there yet.
And what?
But
question.
can I answer his question? Because I think I have a good
Yeah.
strategy for the VC. If you work backwards from the theory of constraints, then in a new AI enabled world, like, for me, I'm in the AppSec space, so developers are writing code and they're writing a lot more code with Claude and Ralph and whatever. And so for an enterprise, what is the thing that is going to be slowed down by that? It's the security operations to triage and fix, the vulnerabilities that are being discovered there. And that's just my space, but I work backwards from, again, like, what is the theory of constraint in every space of how when AI is really fully maximalized on the in the business side, what can I do to help? So that's one strategy. Who's going to be best at writing the context graph of the company, the knowledge graph of the company, to create the business outcomes you want when you're behind?
How do you balance the making it easy so, and I don't want to mean this right, anyone can do it, with actually getting the technology that is the best technology, but not what anybody wants to use because it's hard to use?
I think that's the challenge, right? So there is, if you, and I may go back to my IDS days, and Marty used to do the snort source fire thing, right? There was a time when there was so much IDS alerts that we just ignored IDS alerts, right? Because it was, yes, it was an easy tool to use, but there was way too much noise to signal ratio, right? What I'm really looking for is, even if it's a little harder to use, right, the output that's coming out of it should be relevant and valid for me to attack and ingest, right? But as a provider of that solution, don't make it too hard so that my analysts are going to be, oh man, I need to now tune this every other day, right? That's a lot of work on our part, because we shouldn't be tuning. That's your job, right? Our job is to take the output from your product and make it easy for me to find an answer, right? Hopefully that helped answer that a little bit.
She
It's
is
actually,
Ron's wife.
if you saw, yes, Cindy Gula. If you saw Davos 2 weeks ago, the managing director of the IMF mentioned that in like first world nations, I think 60% of like entry level knowledge jobs are going to be replaced by AI, and 40% worldwide. And then Ron had mentioned that these startup companies, if it's such a commodity to just make software, and the big companies who have the capital can just make software, like the bottom can come out of the entry level knowledge workers and out of the startup community. So it's actually kind of a fascinating thing. And so my question is, how can we train the next level of strategists, analysts, like humans that can see around corners? Because what I hear in the education system is that the students actually don't have intelligent curiosity. They're not thinking through problems. So as the bottom's coming out of this type of work, and we're all getting dependent on AI that makes it so easy for us, it's like this. It's what's that movie where everybody, they fast forward like 50 years and
Idiocracy.
everyone's, what's that?
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy, right? Is that what's happening here? Idiocracy, right? Because it's going to be so easy for us that we won't have critical thinking, and then it just. I mean, I guess that's okay as long as we have like abundance, right? What are your thoughts?
It's a very pessimistic view, right? Here's my perspective on it. It's a two-way street. It's always been a two-way street. Every technology revolution relies on individuals leaning in with curiosity, taking their careers by the wheel and moving forward. And I don't think this is any different, right?
Oh, here, yeah.
And I don't think it's any different now. I think it's incumbent on us as leaders to show the path, make opportunities available, be open, make sure we mentor and do that sort of stuff, as long as it's met on the other side. And like, look, I take an optimistic view. Again, I'm going to go back to the SOC example because I've lived it. I have 35 people right now that have been redeployed in a different task, trained task. And I don't want to say higher level, but potentially more fulfilling, not as mundane. And that's a good thing. Now, is it going to happen at scale and things are going to be displaced? Perhaps. But in my unique example, we use it as an opportunity to really enrich those employees.
You're absolutely right. And it's the new frontiers, right? Like Musk announced just yesterday SpaceX bought XAI so that he can put server farms in space because they get direct access to solar, right? And that's a new frontier, new security issues with that, certainly different user experience of how data is going back and forth to satellites, right? So it is the new frontiers, and humans are ultimately that creative thinker that is going to tackle the new problems. And here we're talking about user experience, but we don't even know what the user experience needs to look like when we're inhabiting Mars and mining the moon.
Yeah.
So, question for the panel: how do each of you handle when the AI makes a mistake in your organization? So, what happens if the AI says the source code's good, but it's not good?
Yeah, I mean, we're very open with our customers. We tell that we give them our benchmarks, and we give you a benchmark like bring your own model. Like, here's what you're gonna get, and here's how you can tune it by giving it more context to get to the levels that you want it to get to. But we're still very much human in the loop. Like, an analyst needs to come along and say, I agree with this assessment, and yeah, and until we get to the point where they feel where these two feel like we need to let the AI loose and give it permission to close incidents or close reports. Yeah, I'm going to follow their lead on that.
We still have, to your point, we still have the luxury of having a human in the loop, right? Because these are folks who have kind of learned it the hard way over time. And even if power goes out, we can still survive with candles, right? We still have that luxury. But there will be a time when, power goes out, we are all in the dark, right? That's the worry. That means, to your point, try to make sure that you still have some trained folks who can still work in a hands-on type approach and not just keep asking the questions and get an answer and expecting an answer to come out, right? So there still needs to be that validation, human in the loop, that you should never completely get rid of, right?
I can't let an answer go. I have to go. There's another side to that. Yes, we have human in the loop. Yes, we have continuous validation. Yes, for our COTS providers, they take our feedback, they change the model. But what I've found in applying these AI tools is that there's a bias, whether it's a self-defensive bias or something like that, where they delude themselves into thinking that humans are these errorless organisms that never make a mistake.
That's right.
Particularly in the SOC. And I had to point out and say, I know when we've made mistakes. I know when you got tired and you didn't see something. So let's not sit here and say the AI has to be 100% when you were 75. Maybe the AI is 95% and you were 75. So we have to put a little bit of realism in it and get out of that deterministic thinking where it has to be perfect. So again, we have human in the loop. We deal with errors. We keep an eye on it. But we also have to keep that realistic eye.
And that's why we need the belt and suspenders approach like we've always needed for security. Because yeah, when I was in the job doing code review for companies and I was looking at the results of tools that would spit out 5,000 things, and like, you think I didn't cut any corners? I mean, you didn't think I didn't like have to do some level of pattern matching and assumption to get through 5,000 results in one day? Of course. And so yeah, I agree with the premise that the bar isn't 99 to get to the level of risk that that we were at before. If we want to have non-inferiority, I'm not sure what the number is, but yeah, it's not 100%.
You guys are really passionate. I'm sorry. I'm taking the.
No, I was going to say, is there any other last questions?
Yeah,
Otherwise, I think we have to wrap pretty soon.
Yeah, we're going to wrap, but I would like, we have a special guest here, a special guest to me, Andy Bonillo. He was CISO at Sienna. They were one of our clients. So, and also now he's general manager at TikTok. And I'm just curious if you have thoughts and feelings around this topic and conversation. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I feel like you will, because you have a lot of passion around this whole conversation and topic.
That is officially on the spot for sure. Hi, everybody.
Surprise.
Yeah, total. Like, what part of my disclaimer up front was like, I can't participate, but we're participating. No, listen, I appreciate everything you guys are saying and then the work that you're doing. This community like really is rallying around like where we need to be, right? And I think where's the puck going, right? And I think Ron's keyed on it. I think around AI. I think I saw your podcast with 7AI, Mike. I thought it was awesome, and I've built and run many SOCs, and I think like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is happening, right? It's happening, but like the human component to any transformation, I think, is what you all are focused on, and what I really have a passion around also is 60% plus of any transformation, if you don't get the human component right, it's going to fail. right? And I think Mike started to hit on the transformation he was going through about pointing out data, to say, listen, we're not perfect. And when I think about these issues, whether you're, a global multinational, you're a startup, you've got a billion users on a platform like we do at TikTok. At the end of the day, like the use case around thinking about the human, which we start UX and UI, the human component of all this can't get lost, right? We can't get lost because the transformation we're going to have, like we're all worried about, like, to Mike's point, are they losing their job? Right? Am I going to create the friction if I'm internally through a transformation? So anyway, what I'm excited about around here is the things that you mentioned: mentorship, growth, and being able to productize and create a platform around the cybersecurity community. And that's where I spend like my kind of off time, is thinking about how I can bring this community together in a way where we can democratize the information, the experience, the access to things globally, right? We have the luxury of sitting at Tenable, being here in Maryland where the cybersecurity information is vast and the talent is great. But when you think about how does this happen to countries who are focused on national defense versus making decisions around national defense and security versus can my country be a part of the global economy if we make the wrong data sovereignty decision or if we don't embrace AI, right? Like how do we make that happen? And it's up to be all of us through this process to make that work. But I think AI is going to be at the center of that, but we can't lose focus of the human at the center of all this. Anyway,
Hey,
that's
Andy.
my on the spot, response.
Yeah, thanks for that. There's a lot of startups in the audience, and I think they'd want to know if you had this really cool UX and you were typing in your email, what is your email so they can contact you?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I barely check it. We built internal collaboration tools like TikTok that are amazing. So to be honest with you, I barely check my email. People text me and go, hey, are you checking your email? And I go, not really, right? Because everything we do is around speed and efficiency, right? And so we think about the chat and everything is around how do we take the friction out of all of our experiences, whether they're internal, collaborating with each other as coworkers, or if it's, how to use the platform. Obviously, I hope all of you are making TikToks, but the reality is it's easy to do, right? And the product teams are front and center when it comes to, what's the user feedback, user experience, and the testing that happens. Having been in your seats, I've never been in your seats, sir, but like having been in your two seats, we always start from that position of like, we feel like we're not at the table. We feel like we're not moving fast enough. The business is going too fast. So like, Mike, when I hear your thinking around, how you're automating as fast and you're looking at data and metrics to kind of look at the things like say, where am I creating friction? Our jobs need to be as business leaders, right? And I kind of don't like it when we as practitioners say the business. We're all the business, right? How do we are looking at minimizing risk? How do we taking out friction? How do we let the business move faster and enable the business to go at a speed that needs to go in a safe way is our job. And so anyway, I appreciate all the commentary and your commitment to the community. And I'm around here for the rest of the night, but thanks for putting me on the spot.
Yeah, I think that the human part that you guys brought up, I think is really interesting. And sort of relates here. I think if you look in the history textbooks, like when we learned history, we learned that the Industrial Revolution is sort of an atomic event. But if you look it up, it's like two different periods that spanned, I don't know, let's say 40 to 60 years or something. And we are 3.5 years after ChatGPT 3 hit. And so for the startup builders and for the leaders, like I think your mentality, I think, has to be, just for your own mental health, has got to be that we're surfers now. We surf on whatever the waves are, like whatever the macro is, we're all just surfing. And so like to feel unmoored from like, a North Star that you can follow all the time and sort of how the oceans are going to operate, how the stars are going to move. It's not that world anymore. And so you got to get a little bit more comfortable with surfing. I don't know if that's how you all feel.
I couldn't agree more.
All right. Any last minute questions? Otherwise, I'll throw one more question out to the panel. All right. To wrap up here, 5 years from now, what do you predict user experience or AI or cyber industry in general will be doing that we are not doing today? 5 years from now.
Look, I just want
All
to
right,
be
Mike,
really
what do you got?
clear. I'm not a futurist, right? from a user experience perspective, I think we talked about the opportunities to change it leveraging AI. But I think to your point in the surfing context, I'm focused on where that VC ecosystem is going a quarter from now. The days of planning it a year out for investments are over, right? Staying current, riding the wave, reading the stars, keeping up, enabling the business. That's what I'm focused on. And 5 years is going to happen, but I just want to ride the wave right now.
Okay, so highly dynamic, agile, just-in-time operations.
A highly dynamic non-answer, but yes.
One thing. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think the cyber guys will be out of a job in 5 years, right? Because I feel that think about what we are chasing these days, right? It's almost all the time a bug in a code someplace, right? Or some vulnerability that is getting exploited someplace, right? That's what we are doing, right? Or we are, going after identity, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like that whole process will be so automated that the bugs aren't probably, because once they find it, they're going to fix it. It's going to be such a dynamic scenario that vulnerability management becomes a thing of the past. We don't have to worry about that, right? Then it becomes, let's gonna go after identity, right? Well, the identity thing is going to be pretty convincing that you probably don't have to worry about somebody taking your identity and running with it. So we are slowly going to be put out to pasture, because so those things that we all kind of hold dear to our hearts and say, oh yeah, we're solving this, the firefighting this, all of that good stuff, it's all going to just slowly go away.
You might be right.
He's right.
I hope not.
He might be right if we can somehow get to the formal methods way of building compute that everything can be sort of formally verified. But vulnerabilities are like interesting emergent phenomena from many places that are not necessarily related. So I don't think that we're going to stop creating them. We might be able to create automation that helps us find them and fix them very quickly and respond to them and we have the different layers of security. But there's an interesting quote from IBM from a long time ago, it might have been the 70s, where they said, a computer can never be held responsible for a decision. And so, a computer can't be held, a human has to be, relied
The fall
upon.
guy.
You need a fall guy. That's a very nice way of putting it. And so if we have, maybe there's only 5 employees at a company, it's the CEO and they got to look at, so you're the person that made the thing, and I need a security person to make sure that they're not going to screw us. So maybe there's only 3 jobs, but it's, who knows? And nobody knows. It really depends on how many breakthroughs you're betting on occurring in the ML world. And obviously you can't predict that. And so let's surf until we can't any longer.
But even if you have the 3 employees, you're going to be the manager of 25,000 agent employees.
That's
Right.
true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yes.
That's
So
the
it's-
hope.
Those performance reviews will be nightmares.
It's going to be very odd, but
Ron, any parting thoughts?
So yeah, just from the founder to VC kind of people ask me this because I agree more with Alex. Everybody's a bit right, but the story I talk about is that almost every venture capital firm I talk to, they go through this bell curve cycle where they get this disillusionment where they invested in 10 companies and one of them did 20x, but the other 9 were just kind of not good returns, and they're like, I think with this AI thing, I'm going to only invest in single founder companies, and I'm going to be good. And I'm like, oh, you're investing in all those like technocrat people you've been passing on for the past 20 years, but now it's going to work out great. Good luck with that. So
That's so true. All right. Well, thank you so much for the audience for being here, Kim and team for putting this together, Ron for helping to moderate, and Arsham, Alex, Mike, thank you so much for all your infinite
give it up for
wisdom.
Todd. Yep.
Cheers. All right.